If you're like me, you try to maximize all of the discounts, special offers, and credits when booking a cruise. You spend a lot of time researching to get the best deal for your vacation, and usually you feel pretty good about what you're able to get. But here's a scenario that has happened to me more than once. I was entitled to an onboard credit that I either unknowingly or mistakenly left on the table. I didn't claim it. In the beginning, it was simply because I was unaware that I was entitled to it. But then, even after I became aware of the incentive, I got caught up in the excitement of planning my trip and completely forgot about it until it was too late. And this little oversight has cost me more than $600. Don't make the same mistake I have. In this video, we'll talk about the onboard credit that cruise lines offer to passengers who own some stock in the company, the shareholder benefit. Hi, I'm Tiffany from Destination for Vacation. Thanks for joining me. It's not very well advertised, but passengers who own a minimum of 100 shares of a cruise line stock are entitled to what are called shareholder benefits. Now, before I lose you because you're thinking that this is going to be some complicated scheme that requires monopoly levels of money to qualify, stay with me for a bit because it really doesn't require much. And with the recent Wall Street analyst upgrades to cruise stocks, this may be a very opportune time to see if this is the right option for your family to claim more onboard credits. We'll talk about specifics by cruise lines in just a bit, but generally, if you own 100 shares or more of the company's stock, you're eligible to claim an onboard credit that's in addition to any other credits that are being offered with your cruise purchase. And if you tend to take more than one cruise a year, these credits can quickly add up. And the nice thing is, the shareholder benefit onboard credit is usually determined by the number of days in a sailing. So you can just own the minimum number of 100 shares and be entitled to the same credit amount as another passenger owning 10,000 shares. Cruise lines took on massive amounts of debt during the COVID-19 pandemic shutdowns and have been trying to claw their way back to profitability ever since. Most are not there yet. They still have huge amounts of debt that they're working to pay off. But these days, there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel, and their stock prices are starting to reflect this. Norwegian Cruise Line stock was trading in the $50 range in November of 2019. As you can see in this chart, it sharply nosedived during the COVID-19 pandemic shutdown, and that's going to happen when you can't do business. They couldn't sail, so they, like all the cruise lines, were hemorrhaging money left and right and had to pile on massive loads of debt just to survive as a company. I was not a shareholder of any cruise line stock prior to 2020, but we've always enjoyed sailing on Norwegian, and I felt like, while it would take time, the company would eventually recover. So I bought stock in Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings when it was in the $11 range. Given the uncertainty of the times, I only invested what I felt comfortable in losing, because let's face it, that's always a risk you take when investing in stocks. And cruise line stocks can be risky because they're affected by so many outside factors. But I saw it as a good opportunity and thought the stock price would grow with time. And I was correct. It's now doubled in price, and some analysts believe that there's still a lot of room to grow in the near future. Little did I know when I bought the stock that I would now be eligible to start claiming a shareholder benefit on every single cruise I took on Norwegian Cruise Line, Oceania Cruises, or Regent Seven Seas Cruises, assuming it wasn't a chartered cruise or one that was gifted to me. In fact, I didn't find out about the concept of a shareholder benefit until I was waiting in line at the guest services desk during a cruise a couple of years ago in Norway on a competitor's line. I overheard a passenger who was inquiring to see if her shareholder benefit had been credited to her onboard account, and my attention was piqued. I thought, well, if Carnival Holdings offers this, then surely Norwegian would do the same. And then a new world of savings opened up to me. So let's take a look at what kind of credit you're entitled to as a shareholder. All requirements and benefits are current as of this video's recording, but know that they can always change, so please be sure to do your research. Generally, cruise companies update their shareholder benefits page annually, so you may see that what we're looking at in this video is good until December 31st, 2024. That doesn't mean the benefits are going to disappear. They just get reaffirmed and updated on an annual basis. Let's start with Norwegian. To view the shareholders benefit and the requirements for claiming it, I'll visit Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings webpage, which is here. I'll select the Investors tab and scroll down to Shareholder Benefits. Ooh, I like this. Nice and simple to figure out. Shareholders receive $250 in onboard credit per stateroom for sailings of 15 days or more, $100 for sailings of 7 to 14 days, and $50 for sailings of 6 days or less. Note that this onboard credit is per stateroom. So if you own 100 shares of the stock in your name and your cabin mate also owns 100 shares, you don't receive 2 credits for that stateroom. You just get the 1. Likewise, there's no multiplier involved. If you own 1,000 shares, you don't get 10 times the credit. That would be nice, but it's not going to happen. But there is a way to increase the number of credits you receive if you're traveling with a larger group and require more than 1 cabin. Let's say you're a family traveling with 2 teenagers, so you're booking 2 cabins because one is just too tight at that age. I might book cabin 1 in my name and list one of my kids, and then book cabin 2 in my spouse's name with my other kid. Actually, if they're minors, I think you have to do that anyways. But when we're actually on the ship, my spouse and I will stay in one cabin and my kids will stay in the other one. But we can now claim 2 onboard credits. So how do you go about requesting your benefits? First things first, you need to own at least 100 shares of their company's holding stock to be eligible for the shareholders benefit. For Norwegian, the stock symbol is NCLH. Most companies also specify that you must continue to own the shares as of the time of sailing. And Norwegian, which offers a lot of chartered sailings, excludes those kinds of sailings from the offer, as well as a few other booking types that probably won't affect most people. Remember I said that I had lost out on claiming more than $600 in onboard credits as a shareholder? It's one thing not to know about the shareholder benefit. That's understandable. But here's the embarrassing thing. I lost out on claiming some of those credits even after I became aware of the benefit, and here's why. In all the excitement of planning for my trips and making sure passports were up to date and COVID test results were submitted, I simply had forgotten to submit my request by the required deadline. More than once, I suddenly remembered the credit right before I took the cruise, but by then, it was too late to make a request because I didn't meet the submission timelines. And that, as you can imagine, was a bitter pill to swallow each time it happened. In order to receive Norwegian shareholder benefit, you'll need to complete the form that's posted on the company's website. It's simple: your name and info, the ship and sailing date, and your reservation number. You'll also need to include proof of your stock ownership. Exactly what you'll need for that is clearly listed. It's an easy process. Then you can either email the application and proof of stock ownership, or you can physically mail it in. Just be sure to do so by the posted deadline so it can be credited to your account. For Norwegian, that means submitting everything at least 15 days ahead of your sailing, and if you're going to be mailing your information in instead of emailing it, make sure to add on transit time. Read the fine print so you understand what the onboard credit can be used for. In Norwegian's case, you may not use it for onboard service charges or pre-purchased activities, but other than that, it's pretty flexible. Carnival Corporation owns several different cruise lines, and their shareholder benefits are based on the operational currency on board their vessels. As you can see in this chart, Carnival's North American shareholder benefits are pretty much the same as Norwegian's, with the exception of offering the $250 credit on sailings of 14 days or more, which is a better deal than Norwegian's 15-day minimum. Carnival requires more time for processing the shareholder benefit. Applications must be received at least 3 weeks prior to the cruise departure date. Carnival's shareholder benefit credit can't be used for gratuities or as a casino credit. Instead of mailing or emailing your application and proof of stock ownership, Carnival uses an app called Stock Perks. You simply download the app and then create a user profile. The app then takes you through the steps needed to validate your stock holdings. You have the choice of automatically connecting to your brokerage accounts or manually uploading. I chose the automatic feature, and validation of my stock holdings took less than a minute to set up. After validation, you submit your claim by choosing the Carnival line you're sailing on. It was impressively easy. The last major company to offer a shareholder benefit is Royal Caribbean, which operates Royal Caribbean International, Celebrity Cruises, and Silversea Cruises. Like Norwegian and Carnival, you just need to own a minimum of 100 shares as of the time of sailing. The symbol for Royal Caribbean stock is RCL. If you're one of the lucky people who will be able to sail on one of their world cruises, then definitely make sure to remember to apply for the shareholder benefit because you'll receive an onboard credit of $1,000. The company offers a $250 credit for sailings of 14 or more nights. Not to split hairs here, but Carnival and Norwegian specify days, whereas Royal Caribbean specifies nights. A 14-night cruise generally converts to 15 days, so Royal Caribbean's requirement for the $250 credit more closely matches Norwegian's. The $100 and $50 credit match the offers of both Norwegian and Carnival since 6 nights equals a 7-day cruise. Like Norwegian, Royal Caribbean issues the credit in US dollars, except when the onboard currency used is a foreign currency. But in those cases, it's simply converted over at a currency exchange rate determined by the cruise line. Royal Caribbean shareholder benefit credit may not be used for onboard service charges or pre-purchased activities, except on world cruises, where there are some exceptions, which you'd want to look into for specifics. Similar to the other cruise lines, charter and complimentary sailings are excluded from the offer, but they also exclude their Galapagos sailings. Royal Caribbean requires that you submit your name, address, confirmation number, ship and sailing, along with proof of share ownership at least 3 weeks prior to the sailing. Their process is all done electronically. Here's how you do it. Visit rclinvestor.com and click on the Frequently Asked Questions tab. Then select Shareholder Benefits. Scroll down to number 3, How do I redeem this benefit? And then click on the top option if you're sailing on Royal Caribbean or Celebrity Cruises. If you'll be on Silversea Cruises, select the second option. You should receive an email confirmation within about a week. Virgin Voyages and MSC Cruises are not publicly traded companies, so they don't offer shareholder benefits. These other cruise lines also don't currently offer shareholder benefits. So, whether you're sailing on a cruise ship owned by Carnival, Norwegian, or Royal Caribbean, you'll basically get the same amount of onboard credit for simply owning 100 shares of stock. Is it worth it? In my opinion, it depends on why you want to buy the stock. I finally bit the bullet and purchased Carnival stock when it was about $14 a share because operations and costs had been stabilized and cruise demand was starting to skyrocket. If I had only purchased 100 shares to get the shareholder benefit, then, in my mind, if something catastrophic happened with the stock and it sank to nothing, I really wouldn't be out much. And I wouldn't even be out the $1,400 because we had 5 cruises scheduled between Princess and Holland America that year. And the amount of shareholder benefit credits totaled $950. So worst case scenario, I'd be out $450 if the stock sank to nothing. That was a risk I felt was worth taking. But while that thought was in the back of my mind, that's not why I bought the stock. If you're buying a stock purely for the shareholder benefit, you'll want to think about how much money you're tying up. Buying 100 shares of Norwegian at $23.38 a share ties up a little less than $2,400. But buying 100 shares of Royal Caribbean stock at $195.69 a share ties up nearly $20,000. With that said, would I ever buy stock for the sole purpose of getting a shareholder's benefit? No, I wouldn't, and I'm certainly not recommending that you do so. If you want to buy the stock solely to gain the shareholder's benefit, you better be planning on going on a lot of cruises with these lines, and be aware that the stock prices can really fluctuate. Yes, Norwegian can certainly make it back to $50 or more per share someday, but that's a long way off, and there are a lot of things that can happen in the meantime, especially geopolitically, that could derail that progress. Instead, the shareholder's benefit should be icing on the cake. You invest money in a company that you think is well run and will be profitable. And for your loyalty, the company offers a token of its gratitude. I see the shareholder's benefit as simply a bonus. So if you do have shares in one of these cruise companies or you're considering purchasing shares, don't forget to claim your shareholder benefit. Make a note to submit your request as you make your final payment for the trip so you don't end up like me and forget to do so on more than one occasion. But let's just keep that secret between us. Thanks for joining me today. If you like this video, I certainly would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to Destination for Vacations channel. You can do so by clicking on the subscribe button on the lower right-hand side of your screen. Thank you for your support. I hope you can join me again soon. Until then, here's hoping that your next adventure is just around the corner.